She walked into the wrong office, and a billionaire called her his bride. One mistake turned into a contract she never agreed to. In a world that judged her before she spoke, she chose kindness anyway. But when the truth came crashing down, would anyone stand beside her? On a cold Chicago night, Alicia Brooks stepped into a glass tower she didn't belong to. At least that's what everyone thought. One broken elevator ride later, she found herself face to face with a man who saw her not as she was, but as someone he needed her to be. A lie began. A deal was made. And in a world built on power and money, the one thing no one expected was her heart. She didn't come for love. She didn't come for money. But somehow, she became the one person who could change everything. The rain came down in thin, slanted lines, slicing through the gray Chicago morning like it had something personal to prove. Alicia Brooks pulled her worn coat tighter around her shoulders as she stood across the street from the glass tower, staring up at it like it was a different world entirely. It wasn't just a building. It was polished, cold, perfect. The kind of place where people didn't worry about overdue bills or bus schedules or whether their shoes would leak through in the rain. Alicia looked down at her reflection in a puddle. The water trembled under the raindrops, distorting her face. Her curls were damp, her green blouse slightly wrinkled despite her best efforts, and her heels, borrowed from a neighbor, were already starting to darken at the edges. "You got this," she whispered to herself, though her voice didn't sound convinced. Her phone buzzed in her hand. A message from the hospital. Reminder: payment plan overdue. Please contact billing department. Her chest tightened. She didn't open it. She couldn't. Not now. Instead, she lifted her chin and crossed the street. Inside, the building smelled like expensive air, clean, faintly citrus, like nothing real had ever happened here. The floors gleamed so brightly she could see her reflection again, clearer this time, sharper, too sharp. Alicia hesitated just past the revolving door, clutching her brown portfolio to her chest like it might anchor her. Reception was a curved desk made of white stone. Behind it stood a woman in a navy suit so perfectly tailored it looked like it had been designed for her body alone. The woman's eyes flicked up, scanning Alicia in one quick motion, from her damp coat to her shoes, before settling into something polite but distant. "Yes?" she said. "I'm here for an interview," Alicia replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "Receptionist position, 71st floor." The woman nodded, already turning her attention to her screen. "Elevators are to your left." That was it. No smile, no welcome. Alicia swallowed and walked toward the elevators, her heels clicking too loudly against the marble. Every sound echoed. Every movement felt noticeable. She pressed the button. The doors opened almost immediately. Inside, everything was mirrored steel and soft lighting. Too quiet. Too smooth. She stepped in alone and pressed 71. The doors slid shut. For a moment there was silence, just the faint hum of motion. Then, a flicker. The lights dimmed for half a second. Alicia frowned. The numbers above the door blinked once, twice, then began climbing. Her stomach dipped. "Wait." "No," she muttered, pressing the button again. 71. Nothing happened. The elevator didn't slow. It didn't respond. It just kept going. By the time it stopped, the number read 72. The doors opened. Alicia stood there for a second, unsure. This floor didn't look like a regular office level. There were no cubicles, no busy employees rushing around. Just silence, soft carpet underfoot. Walls lined with abstract art she didn't understand, but knew had to be expensive. "This isn't right," she whispered. She should have turned around, waited for the elevator, gone back down. But then she thought about her mother. pale in that hospital bed, smiling through pain like it didn't matter. She couldn't afford to mess this up. Maybe they moved the interview. Maybe this was part of it. Just ask, she told herself. Her footsteps were quieter now on the carpet as she followed the hallway, her heart beating louder with each step. At the end, there were double doors, dark wood, heavy, slightly open. Voices drifted through, low, controlled, important. Alicia hesitated. Then she knocked lightly. No answer. The door creaked as she pushed it open just enough to step inside. And everything stopped. The room was enormous. Floor-to-ceiling windows stretched across one wall, the city laid out beneath like something distant and untouchable. A long table filled the center, surrounded by people in tailored suits, their attention instantly shifting toward her. It was the kind of silence that pressed down on you. Alicia froze just inside the doorway, rain still clinging to her coat, her breath catching halfway in her chest. Every eye in the room was on her, not curious, not welcoming, assessing, like she didn't belong there, like she'd broken something just by walking in. I'm sorry, she started, her voice smaller than she wanted it to be. A chair moved, not loudly, but enough. At the far end of the room, a man stood, tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a charcoal suit that fit him like it had been poured onto him. His presence filled the space without effort, like gravity had shifted slightly in his direction. His eyes, cold gray, locked onto her. And in that instant, Alicia felt it. Not just being seen, being measured, catalogued, judged. The man took a step forward, slow, deliberate. The others stayed silent. He didn't look confused. He didn't look surprised. He looked certain. So, he said, his voice smooth and low, cutting clean through the tension. You finally decided to show up. Alicia blinked. What? He stopped a few feet from her, studying her face like he was searching for something familiar, or maybe something disappointing. You're late, he continued. But I suppose that's to be expected. I think there's been a mistake, Alicia said quickly, her grip tightening on her portfolio. I'm here for an interview on the 71st floor. Alicia Brooks, he said, interrupting her. Her name. The sound of it in his voice made her stomach twist. Yes, she said slowly. He exhaled through his nose, almost like a quiet sigh of resignation. Of course, he murmured. My grandmother would choose someone like you. Alicia frowned. I don't understand. You don't need to, he said, already turning slightly, as if the conversation was settled. Then he looked back at her, and for the first time, something sharper flickered in his expression. Expectation, possession, finality. Miss Brooks, he said, his tone flattening into something colder. Or should I say, he paused just long enough for the room to lean into the silence. My fiancé. The word hit her like a drop into deep water. Everything inside her went still. Her fingers loosened around her portfolio. What? She whispered. Around them, the room remained silent, watching, waiting. And suddenly, Alicia Brooks, the girl who just needed a job, who couldn't afford to be here, who had stepped into the wrong place at the worst possible moment, realized something terrifying. This wasn't just a mistake. It was the kind of mistake that changed everything. Alicia's heartbeat filled her ears so loudly she barely heard the faint rustle of movement around the room. The men and women seated at the long table hadn't looked away. If anything, they leaned in, watching, waiting, like an audience at a performance she never agreed to give. My fiancé. The word still hung in the air, heavy and wrong. Alicia swallowed hard, forcing her voice to work. No, that's not. There's been a misunderstanding. I'm not. Everyone, the man said, not even raising his voice, yet somehow commanding the entire room. "Give us a moment." Chairs shifted, papers gathered. No one questioned him. One by one they stood, filing out in silence, though more than a few cast curious glances toward Alicia on their way out. The doors closed behind them with a soft click, and suddenly, it was just the two of them. The silence that followed felt different now. Not public, not performative. Private. Tense. Dangerous. Alicia took a step back, instinctively putting distance between them. "I don't know what you think is going on, but I'm not your fiancé. I'm here for a job interview. Receptionist. 71st floor. The man studied her again, slower this time. Closer. "You're serious," he said, almost to himself. "I wouldn't be standing here soaking wet if I wasn't," Alicia replied, her voice trembling despite her effort to stay calm. "Please, I think your elevator malfunctioned or something. I just need to—" "Your name is Alicia Brooks," he cut in. "Yes. And you're not here because your family finalized the arrangement last week." "My family?" Alicia let out a short, disbelieving laugh. "Sir, my family can barely finalize a grocery list right now." For a moment, something flickered in his eyes. Not warmth, but doubt. He turned abruptly, walking back toward the massive desk. His movements were precise, controlled, like every step had purpose. "Stay," he said. Alicia didn't want to obey, but something in his tone made her body hesitate. He opened a folder, flipping through documents quickly. His jaw tightened as he read. Then, "Margaret." The door opened almost instantly, as if someone had been waiting just outside. A woman stepped in, the same kind of polished presence Alicia had seen downstairs, only sharper. Red suit. Perfect posture. Eyes that missed nothing. "Yes, Mr. Carter?" So that was his name. Ethan Carter. "I need confirmation," he said, handing her the folder. "Now!" Margaret scanned the papers, her expression barely shifting. "I'll call Jonathan," she said. She stepped aside, already dialing, her voice low and efficient as she spoke into the phone. Alicia stood frozen, clutching her portfolio so tightly her fingers ached. Her mind raced. Get out! That was the only thought that made sense. But her feet wouldn't move, because this wasn't just awkward anymore. It felt bigger, more complicated. Margaret ended the call and looked up. "Sir," she said carefully, "there's been a delay. Miss Clarissa Wu's flight was rescheduled this morning. She won't arrive until later this afternoon." The air in the room shifted. Ethan Carter didn't speak right away. He just looked at Alicia again, this time not as a certainty, as a problem. "So," he said slowly, his voice quieter now, more measured. "You're telling me you walked into my private office by accident?" "Yes. And you have no connection to the Wu family." "I don't even know who that is." Another pause. Then, he laughed. It wasn't loud. It wasn't warm. It was sharp. Brief. Almost disbelieving. "A remarkable coincidence," he said, leaning back slightly. "You arrive on the exact day my arranged fiancé is delayed. You match the name in the system. You walk straight into my office." "I didn't walk straight in," Alicia snapped, frustration finally breaking through her fear. "I got lost. I pressed the wrong button. I'm trying to leave." "Are you?" he asked. The question caught her off guard. "What does that mean?" Ethan tilted his head slightly, studying her again. "You haven't moved." Alicia opened her mouth to argue, then stopped. Because he was right. She hadn't moved. Not since he called her that word. Fiancé. Something about it had frozen her in place, not because she believed it, but because of what it represented. A world she didn't belong in. A world that had just mistaken her for someone who did. Alicia shook her head, trying to clear it. Look, I don't have time for this. I need this job. I have to get to the 71st floor. She turned toward the door. Sit. The word hit her like a wall, firm, unyielding. Alicia stopped. Her body tensed. I didn't ask you to stay, she said quietly. No, Ethan replied. But I'm asking you now. She turned back slowly. Why? For the first time, his expression changed in a way she couldn't quite define. Curiosity. Calculation. Opportunity. Because, he said, stepping around the desk, closing the distance between them just enough to make her aware of his presence again. This situation might still be useful. Alicia frowned. Useful? Ethan clasped his hands behind his back, pacing once as if organizing his thoughts. In 3 hours, he said, I have a private dinner. Investors. My grandmother. They expect to meet my fiancé. Alicia's stomach dropped. No. He didn't even react. They are expecting a very specific narrative, he continued. One that has already been communicated, reinforced, and scheduled. I said no, Alicia repeated, firmer this time. I'm not pretending to be anyone's fiancé. I don't even know you. You don't need to know me, he said. You need to play a role. I'm not an actress. You're someone who needs a job, he replied calmly. That landed hard. Alicia's jaw tightened. You don't know anything about me. Ethan stopped pacing. No, he said, but I can guess. He looked at her, not cold this time, but focused. You're behind on something, he said. Rent, bills, maybe both. You wouldn't be here in this weather dressed like that for a receptionist job if you had other options. Alicia felt something twist in her chest. You're wrong. Am I? Silence. He took another step closer. Your phone buzzed when you walked in, he added. You didn't check it. That means it's something you're avoiding. Her fingers tightened around the portfolio. He was too close now. Not physically, but perceptively. My mother is in the hospital, Alicia said suddenly, the words slipping out before she could stop them. Ethan didn't interrupt. Cancer? She continued, her voice quieter now. They're talking about delaying treatment if we can't figure out payments. The room felt smaller, more real. And you're here, he said softly, because you need that job. Yes. A beat passed. Then, I'll pay you. The words cut clean through everything. Alicia blinked. What? For one evening, Ethan said. You attend the dinner. You act as my fiancé. You leave. In return, I pay you enough to cover your immediate needs. She stared at him. You think I'm that desperate? I think you're practical, he replied. I'm not lying to a room full of people for money. Everyone in that room is already lying, he said. They're just better dressed for it. Alicia shook her head, backing away again. No, this is crazy. Ethan didn't move, didn't push. He just said one number, quietly. A number so large it didn't make sense at first. It hung there, unreal, impossible. Alicia's breath caught. That was more than hospital bills, more than rent, more than anything she'd ever seen. Her mind flashed. Her mother's tired smile, the IV drip, the way she pretended everything was fine. This is wrong, Alicia whispered. Yes, Ethan said. So why are you doing it? Because I need something, he replied simply. And right now, so do you. The rain outside hit the glass harder, louder. Alicia looked at the door. Freedom, normal life, struggle. Then she looked back at him, at the man who had just offered her a way out, even if it was built on a lie. One night, she said slowly. Ethan didn't react. Just one, she added. And then I'm gone. A small, almost imperceptible nod. One night. Alicia closed her eyes for a second, then opened them again. Okay, she said. And just like that, the line she never thought she'd cross disappeared. For a moment, nothing moved. Not the rain against the glass, not the air between them, not even Alicia's breath. She stood there, the word okay still echoing in her own ears, sounding unfamiliar, like it had come from someone else. Ethan Carter gave a single nod, as if a contract had just been signed in a language only he understood. Margaret, he said without looking away from Alicia. We're on a schedule. The woman in the red suit stepped forward immediately, already holding a tablet. Of course. Alicia blinked. Wait, what schedule? You have 2 hours, Ethan replied. We don't have time for hesitation. I'm not hesitating, Alicia said, though her voice wavered slightly. I just don't know what I'm doing. That's what Margaret is for. Margaret offered a polite, professional smile. If you'll come with me, Miss Brooks. Alicia hesitated again, but this time it was quieter, smaller, like the part of her that still wanted to say no was already losing its voice. She followed. The hallway outside the office felt longer now, brighter, more surreal. The carpet swallowed her footsteps, but her thoughts were loud enough to fill the silence. What did I just agree to? They turned a corner, then another, until Margaret stopped in front of a private elevator Alicia hadn't noticed before. This will take us to the preparation floor, Margaret said, pressing a code into the panel. The what? Margaret didn't answer. The doors slid open. Inside, the elevator felt softer somehow, quieter lighting, muted gold panels, a faint scent Alicia couldn't place but knew had to be expensive. The ride up was short. Too short. The doors opened to something that didn't feel like part of a building at all. It felt like stepping into a different reality. The space was wide and open, filled with racks of clothing, mirrors framed in soft lights, glass cases displaying jewelry that caught every flicker of brightness in the room. People moved with quiet efficiency, stylists, assistants, someone adjusting fabric, someone steaming a dress. They all turned when Alicia stepped in, and for a second, that same feeling came back, that she didn't belong. Margaret spoke before anyone else could. We're on a tight timeline, she said. Mr. Carter requires a classic, elegant look, nothing overly modern. His grandmother favors tradition. A woman with silver-streaked hair and sharp eyes stepped forward, assessing Alicia the way a sculptor studies raw stone. Stand still, she said. Alicia froze. The woman circled her slowly. Good posture, she murmured. Natural features. We can work with this. Work with this. Alicia felt heat rise in her chest. I'm not a project, she said quietly. The woman paused, meeting her eyes. No, she replied. You're a responsibility, and tonight you represent something much larger than yourself. That didn't make Alicia feel better. Let's begin, Margaret said. And just like that, the room came alive. Hands moved quickly, but gently. Her coat was taken, her damp blouse replaced. Someone measured her without asking. Someone else brushed her hair, careful but firm. Alicia stood in the center of it all, trying to stay grounded while everything around her shifted too fast to process. Arms up, someone said, She obeyed. Fabric brushed against her skin. Cool, smooth. When they stepped back, a mirror was turned toward her. Alicia almost didn't recognize the woman staring back. The dress was deep burgundy, the kind of color that seemed to hold its own light. It hugged her waist, fell just below her knees, simple but undeniably elegant. She lifted her hand slightly, afraid to touch it. "I can't afford this," she said softly. "It's not yours to afford," Margaret replied. "It's provided." "That doesn't make it feel better." Margaret didn't respond. A stylist stepped in next, adjusting Alicia's hair. Her curls were gathered carefully, shaped into something that felt unfamiliar but refined. A makeup artist followed, her touch light but precise. Alicia watched it all happen in the mirror, layer by layer, piece by piece. The girl who walked in, the one with damp hair, tired eyes, and borrowed shoes, began to disappear. In her place, someone else emerged, someone who looked like she belonged in a room Alicia had never even dreamed of entering. "You have beautiful eyes," the makeup artist said casually. Alicia blinked. "Thank you." No one had said that to her in a long time. Not like it mattered. The final touch came in a small velvet box. Margaret opened it carefully. Inside, a necklace. Diamonds set in a delicate line that caught the light like fire. Alicia took a step back. "No, I can't wear that." "You can," Margaret said calmly. "And you will." "What if I lose it?" "You won't." "What if something happens?" Margaret met her gaze directly. "Then it will be handled. That's not your concern." Alicia swallowed. That phrase again. Not your concern. It seemed like in this world, nothing personal was ever allowed to be personal. She let them fasten the necklace. It felt heavy, not physically, but symbolically, like something she hadn't earned, like something she could never truly own. "Shoes!" someone called. A new pair was brought out. Heels. Perfect fit. Of course they were. Everything here seemed to know what she needed before she did. When they were done, the room stepped back. Silence. Assessment. Then, "Perfect," the silver-haired woman said. Margaret nodded once. Alicia stood there, alone in the center again, staring at her reflection. The woman in the mirror looked confident, composed, elegant, but Alicia knew better. Because inside, she still felt like the girl who had been told she didn't look presentable enough for a front desk job. Still felt like the girl who had been passed over, dismissed, underestimated. Still felt like someone wearing something that didn't belong to her. "Miss Brooks." Alicia turned. Margaret stood by the door. "Mr. Carter is ready." Alicia took one last look at herself. Then she walked out. Back down the quiet hallway. Back into the elevator. Back to the world that had mistaken her for someone else. When the doors opened again, Ethan Carter was waiting. He had changed. The charcoal suit was gone, replaced by a darker one, sharper, cleaner. His tie perfectly aligned, his presence even more controlled. He looked at her, and for the first time, he paused. Not long, just enough. Something flickered in his expression. Not approval, not exactly, but acknowledgement. "You clean up well," he said. Alicia held his gaze. "I'm still the same person." "I'm aware." But the way he said it made her wonder if he really was. He stepped closer, adjusting the cuff of his sleeve. "We need to align our story," he said. "My grandmother will ask questions." Alicia nodded slowly. "How did we meet?" "A charity gala," he replied immediately. 3 months ago. You challenged me. That part is important." "Why?" Because it explains why I chose you. Alicia almost laughed. Chosen, she repeated quietly. Ethan didn't react. You read, he continued. You care about people. You're not impressed by money. That part won't be hard to act. He glanced at her. I know. A small silence settled between them. Not hostile, not comfortable either. Just real. Ready? He asked. Alicia took a breath. She thought about the hospital, about her mother, about the message she never opened. Then she nodded. Ready? Ethan extended his arm. She hesitated only for a second, then placed her hand lightly against it, and together they walked toward the elevator, toward the night, toward the lie that was about to begin. And somewhere deep inside Alicia, a quiet question formed, not about the money, not about the risk, but about something far more dangerous. What if she didn't just lose herself in this world? What if this world changed her completely? The elevator ride down felt longer this time. Alicia stood beside Ethan, her hand still resting lightly on his arm, her fingers tense despite her effort to appear calm. The mirrored walls reflected them from every angle. Him composed, polished, in control. Her, dressed in elegance that didn't feel like hers, trying not to let the doubt show in her eyes. You're overthinking, Ethan said without looking at her. Alicia let out a small breath. I'm walking into a room full of people who expect me to be someone I'm not. I think I've earned the right to overthink. Then simplify it. She turned slightly toward him. How? Don't pretend to be someone else, Valshel, he said. Just don't be the version of yourself that walks away. Alicia frowned. That's not helpful. It's honest. The elevator chimed softly as the doors opened to the underground garage. A sleek black car waited. A driver stepped forward immediately, opening the door with quiet professionalism. Ethan guided Alicia inside with a light touch at her back, not forceful, but firm enough that she followed. The door shut behind them, sealing them into a quiet, controlled world. As the car pulled out into the night, Chicago stretched around them. Neon lights flickering against wet pavement, the steady hum of traffic, reflections dancing across the windows like something out of reach. Alicia watched it all blur past. This is your world, she said quietly. Ethan didn't respond right away. It's a world, he said eventually, not necessarily mine. She glanced at him. For the first time, there was something in his voice that didn't sound like control. It sounded tired. The car turned onto a quieter street, then into a private drive lined with soft lights and trimmed hedges. Ahead, a building rose, taller than the rest, its top floor glowing warmly against the dark sky. The restaurant. Even from outside, Alicia could tell this wasn't just dinner. This was performance. The car stopped. Ethan stepped out first, then turned, offering his hand. Alicia took it. Her fingers felt smaller in his, warmer, real. The entrance doors opened before they reached them. A man in a tailored suit greeted Ethan with a slight bow of the head. Mr. Carter, your party is ready. Ethan nodded once. This way. As they walked through the restaurant, Alicia felt it immediately. The shift, the eyes. People turned, not openly staring, but aware. Of him, of them, of the story they represented. She kept her head steady, her steps measured. The heels clicked softly against the floor, no longer uncertain, but still not fully hers. They reached a private dining room at the back. The door opened, and the world changed again. 5 people sat around a circular table, soft golden light reflecting off crystal glasses and polished silverware. The air felt warmer here, softer. At the center sat an elderly woman, small in frame but not in presence. Her silver hair was pinned neatly, her posture straight, her eyes sharp, alive, kind. When she saw Ethan, her face lit up. "Harrison," she said, standing slowly but gracefully. Alicia blinked. Harrison. So that was his first name. And somehow, hearing it made him feel different, less distant, more human. Ethan guided Alicia forward. "Grandmother," he said, "this is Alicia Brooks." The woman turned to her fully, and in that moment, everything Alicia expected didn't happen. There was no judgment, no cold scan, no silent dismissal. Instead, the woman reached out and took Alicia's hands in hers. Warm, firm, real. "My dear," she said, her voice soft but full of life. "You're even more beautiful than he described." Alicia's breath caught. No one had spoken to her like that since she couldn't remember when. "Thank you," she said, her voice quieter now, not from fear but from something else. The woman smiled. "Come sit next to me. I want to hear everything." Everything. Alicia felt a flicker of panic. But Ethan's hand found hers under the table, just briefly. A silent message. "Stay steady." She sat. The others introduced themselves. 2 investors, sharp-eyed and calculating. A younger man with a relaxed smile. His wife warm and observant. But Alicia's attention kept drifting back to the woman beside her. Eleanor Carter. Dinner began. Conversation flowed. At first, Alicia spoke carefully, measured, following the story Ethan had given her. But something unexpected happened. Eleanor listened, really listened, not just waiting for her turn to speak, but absorbing every word, every pause, every nuance. "How did you meet?" Eleanor asked gently. Alicia hesitated. Then, "A charity event," she said. "I wasn't supposed to be there. A friend invited me last minute." That part wasn't entirely a lie. "I spilled a drink," she added, surprising even herself. Ethan glanced at her. "That's new," he murmured. Alicia smiled slightly. "I was nervous." Eleanor laughed softly. "And he helped you?" Alicia looked at Ethan. For a moment, the story and reality blurred. "He didn't," she said honestly. A ripple of amusement moved around the table. "That sounds like my grandson," Eleanor said with a knowing smile. Ethan didn't deny it. As the evening went on, something shifted. Alicia stopped trying to be perfect, stopped trying to match the image. Instead, she answered honestly, where she could. She spoke about growing up in a small apartment, about working 2 jobs, about reading books at night because it was the only quiet time she had. She left out the desperation, the hospital, the fear, but she didn't pretend to be someone she wasn't. And somehow, it worked. More than worked. The younger man, Tyler, laughed easily at her stories. His wife, Melissa, leaned in, asking questions with genuine curiosity. Even the investors seemed engaged. But it was Eleanor who watched her the closest, not with suspicion, with recognition. At one point, a small commotion came from the far side of the room. A server had dropped a tray. Glass shattered softly against the floor. The room went still. The young server froze, her face pale, eyes wide with fear. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. I didn't mean—" The manager stepped forward quickly, his expression tight. "We'll take care of it," he said sharply. Alicia didn't think. She just moved. She stood, crossing the room before anyone could stop her. "It's okay," she said gently, crouching beside the server. "No one's hurt." The girl nodded, her hands trembling. Alicia reached out, steadying them. "Take a breath," she said softly. "It's just glass." The girl blinked back tears. "Thank you," she whispered. Alicia smiled. "You're okay." She stood, brushing her hands lightly against her dress, completely forgetting where she was, forgetting the room, the table, the role. When she turned back, everyone was watching her, not with judgment, but with something else, something quieter. Ethan's eyes were on her, different now, not calculating, not distant, something deeper. Eleanor's lips curved into a soft smile. "There it is," she murmured. Alicia frowned slightly. "What?" "That thing you have," Eleanor said. "That kindness. You don't even think about it, do you?" Alicia shook her head slowly. "It's just what you do." Eleanor's smile widened. "No, dear," she said. "It's what you do." Alicia felt something warm settle in her chest. Unfamiliar. Unexpected. Dinner continued, but the atmosphere had changed. The tension had softened. The performance blurred. And somewhere along the way, Alicia realized something. She hadn't been pretending. Not really. Not when it mattered. And as she sat there, under soft golden light, surrounded by people who were slowly seeing her, not the dress, not the role, but her, she wondered, what if this wasn't just a lie anymore? The thought stayed with Alicia long after dessert plates had been cleared, and the low hum of conversation shifted into something softer, more intimate. The dinner was ending. Chairs moved quietly. Coats were brought. Hands were shaken. Business had been done. But something else had happened too. Something harder to define. Eleanor stood beside Alicia, holding her hand just a second longer than necessary. "You must come by the house soon," she said warmly. "I'd like to hear more about those books you mentioned." Alicia smiled gently. "I'd like that." And she meant it. That surprised her more than anything. Tyler gave Ethan a knowing look as he clapped him lightly on the shoulder. "You've been holding out on us." Ethan didn't respond, but his glance toward Alicia lingered a moment longer than before. Melissa hugged Alicia without hesitation. "It was really nice meeting you," she said. "You feel real." Alicia blinked. "Thank you," she replied softly. Real. The word followed her as she and Ethan walked out of the restaurant together. The night air was cool now, the rain reduced to a faint mist that clung to the pavement and reflected the city lights like scattered stars. The driver opened the car door again. Ethan waited for Alicia to step in first. She did. But this time something had changed. She didn't feel like she was stepping into a role. She felt like she was stepping out of one. The car door closed. Silence settled between them. For a few seconds, neither spoke. Then, "You didn't follow the script," Ethan said. Alicia looked at him. "I thought you said not to pretend." "I said don't be the version of yourself that walks away." "And I didn't," she replied. A pause. "You also added details we didn't discuss." "The spilled drink?" Alicia gave a small shrug. "Seemed harmless." Ethan studied her. "You made them believe it," he said. Alicia looked out the window. "I didn't make them believe anything," she said quietly. "I just didn't lie about who I am." That landed differently than she expected. The car moved through the city, lights passing over their faces in slow rhythm. Ethan leaned back slightly. "They liked you," he said. Alicia let out a small breath. "Your grandmother is kind. She's selective." Alicia turned to him. "She sees people." Ethan didn't respond right away. His gaze shifted toward the window, but not to the city, to his reflection. She hasn't said that about anyone in a long time, he admitted. Alicia didn't know what to say to that, so she said nothing. The car slowed. They were back at the building, the same glass tower, but it didn't feel the same anymore. The driver opened the door. Alicia stepped out carefully, her heels meeting the pavement with a quiet click. Ethan followed. "Wait," Alicia said. He stopped. She reached up, touching the necklace at her throat. "This isn't mine," she said. "Neither is the dress. You'll return them upstairs." "And the money?" Ethan's expression didn't change. "It will be transferred in the morning." Alicia nodded slowly. "That wasn't what I meant." He waited. She met his eyes. "What happens after tonight?" The question hung between them, simple, but heavy. Ethan exhaled slowly. "You go back to your life," he said, "and I go back to mine." Something about that felt off. Not wrong, just incomplete. Alicia nodded anyway. "Okay." She turned toward the entrance, then stopped again. There was something she needed to do. "I'll be right back," she said. Ethan frowned slightly. "Where are you going?" "Just a minute." Before he could ask more, she walked away, back toward the side entrance of the restaurant, the service entrance, the place no one in the main dining room had paid attention to. Inside, the atmosphere was different. No soft lighting, no polished floors, just stainless steel, bright overhead lights, and the sound of dishes being cleaned. The same young server from earlier stood near a counter, her shoulders slightly hunched, her movements careful, too careful, like she was trying not to make another mistake. Alicia approached quietly. "Hey." The girl looked up, startled. "Oh, hi. You okay?" The girl nodded quickly. "Yeah. I'm fine." Alicia didn't believe that. She reached into her small clutch, the one Margaret had insisted she carry, and pulled out the folded cash she had tucked inside earlier. It wasn't much. It wasn't anything compared to what she had just been promised. But it was something. She held it out. The girl stared at it. "I can't take that." "Sure you can." "I dropped a tray," the girl said, her voice tight. "They already told me it's coming out of my pay." Alicia felt something twist in her chest. "That's not right." "It's policy." Alicia shook her head. "Then maybe the policy needs help tonight." The girl hesitated. Then slowly, she took the money, her eyes filled with quiet relief. "Thank you," she whispered. Alicia smiled gently. "No one should have to pay for a bad moment," she said. The girl nodded, holding the money like it meant more than just bills. Alicia turned to leave. No one clapped. No one recorded it. No one even noticed. Except when she stepped back outside, Ethan was there, leaning against the car, watching her. He hadn't left. Alicia paused. "How long were you standing there?" "Long enough." Silence stretched between them. "You didn't have to do that," he said. "I know. You're about to receive more money than that girl will make in months." "I know that too." "Then why?" Alicia looked at him, really looked at him, because suddenly this question mattered. "Because she needed it," she said simply. "That's not a strategy. It's not supposed to be." Ethan straightened slightly. "You gain nothing from that." Alicia held his gaze. "Not everything is about gaining something." The words hung in the air, clear, unapologetic. For the first time since she met him, Ethan Carter didn't have an answer. He just looked at her, and something in his expression shifted. Not dramatically, not all at once, but enough. Enough that Alicia felt it. A crack. Small, but real. "Let's go," he said finally, opening the car door. Alicia got in. The ride back was quieter than before. Not tense, just thoughtful. As the city lights blurred past again, Alicia leaned her head lightly against the window. Her reflection stared back at her. Same dress, same necklace, same face. But something had changed. Not because of the money, not because of the role, but because for a moment, in a world that didn't belong to her, she had been completely, undeniably herself, and somehow, that had mattered, more than anything else. Across from her, Ethan watched the city in silence. But his thoughts weren't on the buildings, or the deal, or the investors. They were on a quiet moment in a service hallway. A girl giving away money she didn't have to, expecting nothing in return. And for the first time in a long time, Ethan Carter felt something unfamiliar, something uncomfortable, something real, and he couldn't ignore it. Ethan Carter had built his life on control, every deal measured, every risk calculated. Every person understood in terms of value, leverage, and outcome. Feelings didn't belong in that system. They slowed things down. They complicated decisions. They made people unpredictable. And yet, as the car rolled through the sleeping streets of Chicago, the image in his mind wasn't a contract, or a number, or a strategy. It was Alicia, standing under harsh kitchen lights, handing away money she couldn't afford to lose, for no reason other than someone else needed it more. It didn't make sense, and that bothered him. The car came to a stop in front of the glass tower. The same building, the same cold, polished exterior, but tonight, it felt like something inside it had shifted. Ethan stepped out first this time. He turned, offering his hand, not out of habit, but instinct. Alicia hesitated for a second. Then she took it. Her fingers were warm. His weren't. The contrast lingered longer than either of them expected. Inside, the lobby was quiet. Marble floors reflecting the dimmed lights. Security nodded respectfully. No one questioned anything. Because from the outside, everything still looked perfect. Upstairs, the private elevator doors opened with a soft chime. Alicia stepped in. Ethan followed. The doors closed. Silence wrapped around them again. But it wasn't the same silence as before. It carried weight now. "You didn't have to come back tonight," Ethan said, his voice lower than usual. Alicia leaned lightly against the wall. "I had to return the dress," she replied. "That could have been done tomorrow." She looked at him. "And pretend tonight didn't happen?" That landed harder than he expected. Ethan didn't respond. The elevator climbed, floor after floor, until it reached the top. The doors opened. The penthouse looked exactly the same. Clean, controlled, untouched, like nothing human had ever disrupted it. But Alicia saw it differently now. She stepped out slowly, taking in the space again. "It's quiet up here," she said. "It's efficient." "That's not the same thing." Ethan watched her. "You think quiet should mean something else?" Alicia shrugged slightly. "I think quiet should feel safe." That word stayed in the air longer than anything else had that night. Safe. Ethan had built empires, but he wasn't sure he'd ever built that. Alicia walked toward the guest suite. She paused at the doorway. "I'll change and bring everything back." Ethan nodded, but he didn't move. He stood in the center of the room, alone again, and for the first time, it didn't feel like control. It felt like distance. Minutes passed. When Alicia returned, she was wearing her own clothes again. Simple, clean, real. The dress was folded neatly over her arm. The necklace rested carefully in her palm. She stepped forward and handed them to him. "Thank you," she said. Ethan looked at the items, then at her. "You don't have to thank me." "I do," she replied. "You helped my mother. I paid for a service." Alicia shook her head gently. "No," she said. "You gave me a chance." Ethan frowned slightly. "That's not how I see it." "That's because you don't have to." Another pause. The space between them felt smaller now. Not physically, but something had shifted. Ethan set the items aside. "There's something you need to understand," he said. Alicia waited. "This doesn't end tonight." Her chest tightened slightly. "What do you mean?" Ethan walked toward the window, looking out over the city. "The deal with the Reynolds family, it's not finalized." Alicia didn't recognize the name, but she understood the tone. "It requires stability," he continued. "Predictability. Image." Alicia's fingers curled slightly at her sides. "And where do I fit into that?" Ethan turned back to her. "They believe you're my fiancé." Alicia let out a small, disbelieving breath. "That was supposed to be for one dinner." "It was," he said, "until it wasn't." Silence. Thick, heavy. "You're asking me to keep lying," she said. "I'm asking you to continue what you already started." Alicia shook her head. "No, I didn't start this. I walked into the wrong room. And now you're in it." His words were calm, too calm, like this was just another negotiation. But this wasn't a contract. This was her life. "What happens if I say no?" she asked. Ethan didn't answer immediately. He studied her, carefully. "Then everything goes back to how it was," he said. Her heart dropped. Her mother, the surgery, the bills, the fragile hope she had just begun to hold on to. "You'd still help her?" she asked quietly. Ethan's expression didn't change. "I keep my agreements." That wasn't the answer she needed, but it was the one he gave. Alicia turned away slightly, her mind racing. This wasn't just about a dinner anymore. This was bigger, messier, dangerous in a way she hadn't prepared for. "How long?" she asked. "A few weeks," Ethan said, "until the deal is secured. And then? Then it ends. Just like that. Clean, simple, like nothing ever happened." Alicia let out a slow breath. She thought about her mother lying in that hospital bed, about the years of struggle, the nights she had gone without so someone else could eat, the way people had looked at her, like she didn't belong, like she wasn't enough. And now, she had a chance to change something, but at what cost? "You want me to pretend to be someone I'm not," she said. Ethan stepped closer. "No," he said quietly. "I want you to be exactly who you were tonight." That stopped her, because she didn't know if that made it better or worse. "You don't understand," Alicia said, her voice softer now. "People like me don't get to play in worlds like this without consequences." Ethan held her gaze. "Then let me worry about the consequences." Alicia almost laughed, but there was nothing funny about it. "You don't get it," she said. "You can walk away from this and still be you." "And you can't?" Her answer came without hesitation. "No." The word echoed in the quiet room. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then, Alicia closed her eyes briefly, gathering herself. When she opened them again, there was something new in her expression. Not fear, not hesitation. Something stronger. "I'll do it," she said. Ethan didn't react right away, but something in his posture shifted. On one condition, he waited. Alicia stepped forward. "You don't get to control who I am in this," she said. "I won't be polished into something that makes you comfortable." Ethan studied her, longer this time, more carefully. "Fine," he said. "And when it ends," Alicia added, "it ends completely. No favors, no expectations." Ethan nodded once. Agreed. The deal was made, but it didn't feel like a victory. It felt like stepping deeper into something neither of them fully understood. Alicia turned toward the door. "I should go. I'll have the car take you." She shook her head. "I'll take the bus." Ethan frowned. "It's late. I've been on worse nights." That was true. He knew it, but it still didn't sit right. "Take the car," he said. Alicia hesitated, then nodded. "Just tonight." Ethan didn't argue. As she walked out, the sound of her footsteps echoed softly against the polished floors. When the door closed behind her, the penthouse fell silent again, but not the same silence. This one felt different, because now there was something inside it, something real, something unpredictable. And for the first time in a long time, Ethan Carter realized something he couldn't calculate. This wasn't just a deal anymore, and whatever it had become, he was already too far in to walk away. The next morning came quieter than Alicia expected. No storm, no urgency, just a pale Chicago sky and the distant hum of traffic rising through the cracked window of her small apartment. For a moment, she lay still, staring at the ceiling, letting reality settle slowly over her like a weight she couldn't shake off. Last night hadn't been a dream. The penthouse, the deal, the man who spoke in calm tones but moved entire worlds with a sentence, and her, Alicia Brooks, now standing somewhere she was never meant to be. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. She turned her head slowly. One message. Unknown number. Car arrives at 8:30. Please be ready. No greeting. No name. Just expectation. Alicia sat up, her back stiff, her thoughts heavier. Across the room, her mother slept quietly in the narrow bed by the window. The oxygen machine hummed softly. Steady, fragile, real. That was why she had said yes. Not the money, not the world. Not him, just this. She swung her legs off the bed and stood. Another day. Another version of herself to become. By the time the black car pulled up outside, the neighborhood was fully awake. Kids in worn backpacks. A man pushing a shopping cart filled with cans. The smell of cheap coffee drifting from the corner store. The driver stepped out before she reached the curb. Opened the door without a word. Alicia paused. Just for a second, looking at her reflection in the tinted glass. Same face, same eyes. But something behind them had changed. Then she got in. The car pulled away, leaving behind everything that made sense. The building didn't feel as intimidating this time, not because it had changed, but because she had. The lobby lights gleamed, polished floors, soft footsteps echoing in controlled silence. People glanced at her, some curious, some recognizing. The whispers had already begun. She felt it. But she didn't stop. The elevator doors opened. She stepped in, alone. No mistake this time. Her finger hovered over the button. Penthouse. She pressed it. The ride up felt longer than before. Heavier. like each floor was asking a question she didn't know how to answer. When the doors opened, he was already there. Ethan stood near the window, suit perfectly pressed, expression unreadable. He turned when he heard her. "You're on time." Alicia stepped out. "I said I would be." A brief pause. Then, "Good." That was it. No welcome, no warmth. But something in his eyes lingered just a fraction longer than necessary, as if he was still trying to understand her. "Today's different," he said, turning back to the city. Alicia crossed her arms lightly. "How?" "You meet my family." That hit harder than anything else so far. Her breath caught slightly. "That wasn't part of the deal." "It is now." Alicia shook her head. "No, that's not how this works." Ethan turned fully this time. "And how does it work?" "I show up, I play the part, then I leave. That's not enough anymore." The room felt colder. Or maybe it was just the way he said it. "What changed?" she asked. Ethan held her gaze. "They're asking questions. And your answer is to bring me deeper into it. My answer is to protect what we started." Alicia let out a quiet breath. "This isn't protection," she said. "This is exposure." Silence stretched between them. For a moment, it looked like he might argue. But then, something shifted. Barely visible. "You won't be alone," he said. Alicia almost smiled at that, because he didn't understand. "You don't get it," she said softly. "Being surrounded by people doesn't mean you're not alone." Ethan didn't respond, because somewhere, he did understand that, more than he wanted to admit. The Carter estate sat just outside the city. Stone walls, iron gates, the kind of place that didn't just hold wealth. It displayed it. The car rolled through slowly. Alicia watched everything. The manicured lawns, the fountains, the stillness. It didn't feel like a home. It felt like a statement. The car stopped at the front steps. Before she could move, Ethan spoke. "One thing." She looked at him. "They don't forgive weakness." Alicia's expression didn't change. "Good," she said. "Neither do I." For the first time, a flicker of something almost like respect crossed his face. Inside, the air felt different, heavier, like every word carried weight. A woman approached first, elegant, sharp, eyes that measured more than they welcomed. "Ethan," she said. Her gaze shifted to Alicia. "And this must be her." No name, just her. Alicia straightened slightly. "Alicia Brooks." The woman didn't offer her hand. "Margaret Carter." Ethan's mother. Of course. The silence that followed was deliberate, calculated, testing. Then, another voice. Softer, warmer. "Well, aren't you a sight?" Alicia turned. An older woman sat near the fireplace, wrapped in a shawl, eyes kind but sharp with experience. Ethan moved slightly. "Grandmother." The old woman smiled. "Come here, child." Alicia hesitated, then stepped forward. The woman reached out, took her hand. Warm, steady. "You look tired," she said gently. That simple sentence cut deeper than anything else in the room, because it wasn't judgment. It was recognition. Alicia swallowed. "I'm all right." The woman squeezed her hand lightly. No one who's all right carries their shoulders like that. Alicia didn't know what to say, so she said nothing. But for the first time since she walked into this world, she didn't feel invisible. Dinner was quiet. too quiet. Every word measured, every glance loaded. Margaret asked questions that weren't really questions. "How did you and Ethan meet?" Alicia answered carefully. "We crossed paths." "Where?" "At the office." Not a lie, but not the truth either. Margaret's eyes narrowed slightly. "And what do you do, Alicia?" There it was, the moment, the line between worlds. Alicia met her gaze. "I work." A small pause. "2 jobs." Silence, heavy, uncomfortable. Margaret leaned back slightly. "I see." But what she meant was, "I don't approve." Ethan said nothing. Again. And Alicia felt it. That same quiet absence. That same space where support should have been. Across the table. The grandmother watched everything, carefully. When dinner ended, Alicia stepped outside onto the terrace. The night air was colder here, cleaner. She wrapped her arms around herself, not from the cold, but from the weight of it all. "You held your ground," Ethan's voice behind her. She didn't turn. "I survived," she said. "That's not the same thing." "No," she agreed. "It's not." A pause, then, "You didn't tell them who you really are." Alicia let out a quiet breath. "And what would that change?" Ethan stepped closer. "It would explain things." Alicia turned now, her eyes sharper than before. "No," she said. "It would give them a reason to dismiss me." That landed. Hard. Because it was true. "You think I'd let that happen?" he asked. Alicia looked at him. Really looked this time. "I think you already did." Silence. Heavy. Unavoidable. For the first time. Ethan didn't have an answer. And Alicia, for the first time, didn't wait for one. Inside the house, Margaret stood near the window, watching them. Quiet. Cold. Calculating. Behind her, the grandmother spoke softly. "She's not what you think." Margaret didn't turn. "I know exactly what she is." The older woman smiled faintly. "No," she said. "You know what she looks like." A beat. "Not what she's survived." Margaret's eyes narrowed, and somewhere in that house, a decision was already beginning to form, one that would change everything, because the lie wasn't just growing, it was about to be exposed, and when it did, there would be nowhere left to hide. The ballroom shimmered like something out of a world Alicia had only ever seen through glass. Crystal chandeliers spilled warm light over polished marble floors. The low hum of conversation blended with the soft clink of champagne glasses. Every detail was controlled, curated, expensive, and every eye, eventually, found her. Alicia stood at the top of the grand staircase, her hand resting lightly on the railing. The dress tonight was even more breathtaking than the first. Deep midnight blue. Silk that caught the light with every movement. It fit her like it had been made just for her. But inside, she felt none of it. Because this time she understood the stakes. This wasn't just a dinner. This was a declaration. A performance in front of people who didn't just observe, they judged. Ethan stood beside her. Still, composed, unreachable. "You ready?" he asked quietly. Alicia didn't look at him. "No," she said. A beat. "Neither am I." It was the closest thing to honesty she had heard from him all night. Then, "Stay close," he added. Alicia almost laughed. Because she knew being close to him was the most dangerous place she could stand. They descended together, step by step, into a room that was already waiting for them to fail. The introductions came quickly, too quickly. Names Alicia wouldn't remember, faces that blurred together, polite smiles that never reached their eyes. "This is Alicia. This is my fiancée." Every time Ethan said it, the word felt heavier, more permanent, more dangerous. Alicia played her part. She nodded. She smiled. She answered questions with careful, measured calm. But she didn't shrink. Not anymore. Not after everything she had already survived. A server passed by. His tray wobbled slightly as someone brushed past him. One glass tipped, then another. Wine spilled across the floor. The room paused. The man froze, panic in his eyes. Alicia moved before she thought. She stepped forward, took the tray from his hands before it could fall completely. "It's okay," she said softly. "I've got it." The man looked at her, confused, grateful, embarrassed. Alicia steadied the tray, set it down on a nearby table, then grabbed a cloth from another server, kneeling slightly. Without hesitation, she began to clean the spill. A murmur moved through the room, not loud, but sharp, disapproving. Why is she doing that? Who does she think she is? Or worse, what is she? Alicia heard it, every word, every whisper. But she didn't stop. Because in her world, you helped people. You didn't watch them drown in embarrassment just to protect an image. When she stood again, she handed the cloth back. "You're good," she said quietly to the server. He nodded, speechless, across the room. Ethan watched, his expression unreadable, but something in his eyes shifted. The tension didn't fade. It thickened, like the room itself had turned against her. Margaret Carter stood near the center now, composed, commanding, the kind of presence that didn't need to raise its voice to be heard. "Everyone," she said smoothly. The room quieted, instantly. "I'd like to take a moment." Alicia felt it before she understood it. That subtle shift in energy, that quiet tightening of space, like something was about to snap. To properly introduce someone who has become very important to our family. Alicia's breath slowed. Ethan stiffened beside her. Margaret's eyes found hers, sharp, precise, cutting through every layer Alicia had tried to hold together. Alicia Brooks. The name echoed, clear, deliberate, and something in the way she said it was wrong. "Such an unexpected addition," Margaret continued, polite but cold. "So naturally, we felt it necessary to understand more about her." Alicia's stomach dropped. Ethan stepped forward slightly. "Mother," but Margaret raised a hand, not loud, not aggressive, just enough. And he stopped. That was all it took. Alicia saw it, felt it, the shift. He wasn't in control here. Margaret smiled faintly. "After all," she said, "it's not every day a woman walks into the wrong office and walks out with a future." The room stilled. Every word landed. Slow, heavy, final. Alicia didn't move. Couldn't. "Of course," Margaret went on, "there's nothing wrong with humble beginnings." A pause. "But clarity is important." A folder appeared in her hand. Thin, simple, devastating. Alicia's heart pounded. No, not like this. Not here. Margaret opened it, effortlessly, as if this were just another detail to be handled. Alicia Brooks, she read softly. 2 jobs, one in a cafe, one cleaning offices at night. A ripple moved through the crowd, low, judging, sharp. She lives in a subsidized apartment in South Side Chicago. Another pause. Longer this time. And her mother, currently unable to afford critical medical treatment. The words hit like something physical. Alicia's chest tightened. Her hands curled at her sides. Every piece of her life laid bare, stripped of dignity, turned into spectacle. She turned slowly, toward Ethan. He stood there, silent, still, watching, but not stopping it, not stopping her, not stopping any of it. That hurt more than anything Margaret had said, because he knew. He knew what this would do to her, and he let it happen. Alicia swallowed, hard. The room blurred slightly, but she refused to break. Not here. Not in front of them. So tell me, Margaret said, her voice soft but cutting, how exactly does someone like you become engaged to my son? The question hung in the air, poisoned, impossible. Alicia could feel every eye on her, waiting, judging, hoping she'd collapse. But she didn't. She stepped forward. Just one step. But it was enough. Her voice, when it came, was steady. By accident. A murmur. Confused. Curious. Real. Alicia lifted her chin slightly. I walked into the wrong office. That's the truth. Another pause. Longer now. And I stayed, she added, because someone needed help. Her eyes flickered, just for a second, toward Ethan, then back. I didn't come here for your world, she said quietly, and I didn't stay for it either. Silence. Deep. Uncomfortable. Unavoidable. Margaret's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes sharpened. Then why stay at all? Alicia exhaled slowly, because this was the moment, the one where everything either broke or held. Because I believed helping someone mattered more than how I looked doing it. The words landed, soft but undeniable. No performance, no polish, just truth. And for a moment, the room didn't know what to do with it. But the damage was already done. The lie was exposed, the illusion shattered. And Alicia stood there alone. No role left to hide behind. No protection left to hold on to. Just herself. And the truth. She turned, without waiting for permission, without looking back, and walked toward the exit. Each step heavier than the last, but steadier, stronger. Because even if everything had just fallen apart, at least one thing remained. She hadn't lost herself. Behind her, the silence broke, voices rising, questions forming, judgments sharpening. But Alicia didn't stop. She didn't run. She just walked, out of the light, out of the illusion, back into the night, where everything hurt. But at least it was real. And inside that ballroom, Ethan Carter stood frozen. Because for the first time in his life, he realized something he couldn't undo. He hadn't just lost control of the situation. He had lost her. And this time, there was no contract in the world that could fix it. The night air hit Alicia like a truth she had been trying to outrun. Cold, honest, unforgiving. She stepped out of the estate gates without looking back, the sound of distant laughter fading behind her like something that had never belonged to her in the first place. No car waited, no driver rushed after her, and she didn't expect one to. Because this time, there was nothing left to negotiate. Her heels clicked against the pavement for a while, then slowed, then stopped. She bent down, slipped them off, and carried them in her hand. The ground beneath her bare feet felt rough, real, each step grounding her back into a life she actually understood. The road stretched ahead, dimly lit, leading back toward the city, back to where she started. The bus stop was nearly empty. A flickering overhead light buzzed softly. A man sat at the far end, wrapped in a worn jacket, head lowered against the cold. Alicia sat down quietly. Her dress, still elegant, looked out of place here, like a memory that didn't belong in the present. She didn't cry. Not yet, because the pain wasn't sharp. It was deep, settled, like something inside her had cracked, and she was still waiting to hear the sound. The bus arrived with a long, tired sigh. The doors opened. Alicia stepped on, dropped her fare, moved to the back. The city passed by outside the window. Neon signs, corner stores, people living lives that didn't pretend to be anything else. She rested her head against the glass, and finally, closed her eyes. Morning came too fast, too normal. Sunlight filtered through the thin curtains of her apartment. The same hum of the oxygen machine. The same quiet space, the same life, only now, she carried something heavier inside it. Her mother stirred slightly. "Alicia?" Alicia turned quickly. "I'm here." Her mother smiled faintly. "You were out late." "Work," Alicia said softly. Not a lie, just not the whole truth. Her mother studied her for a moment. "You look tired." Alicia managed a small smile. "I'm okay." But she wasn't. And somewhere deep down, they both knew it. The cafe smelled like burnt coffee and warm bread. The kind of smell that settled into your clothes and stayed there. Alicia tied her apron slowly, her hands steady, her movements familiar. Safe. "Hey, you're back," Ron called from behind the counter. "You thought I wouldn't be?" He shrugged. "After the way you left yesterday? Didn't know if you found something better." Alicia shook her head. "No." Ron studied her for a second longer than usual, then nodded. "All right. Orders are stacking up." And just like that, she was back. Taking orders. Refilling cups. Wiping down tables. Moving through the rhythm of a life that didn't ask questions, didn't judge, didn't pretend, and somehow, that felt easier. A customer snapped their fingers. "Miss?" Alicia turned. "Yes, ma'am." "Can I get fresh coffee? This one's cold." "Of course." No hesitation, no pride, just service, just kindness, because that part of her had never been about where she stood. It was about who she was. The lunch rush came and went. The noise faded. The cafe settled into a quieter hum. That's when she saw him, sitting near the window. An older man, thin, wearing layers that didn't quite match, hands trembling slightly as he tried to hold a cup of water. No food in front of him. Just sitting. Waiting. Alicia watched for a moment. No one else moved. No one else noticed. Or maybe no one else cared. She walked over slowly. "Sir?" The man looked up, eyes tired but still alert. "Yes?" "Have you ordered yet?" He hesitated, then shook his head. "I don't think I can today." Alicia nodded, like that answer made sense. "Give me a minute." She turned, walked back behind the counter, opened her tip jar, counted quickly. Not much, but enough. She prepared a simple meal. Soup, bread, something warm, something real. Then brought it back, set it down in front of him. The man stared at it, then at her. I didn't order this. I know. I can't pay. Alicia smiled gently. You don't have to. His hands trembled slightly more now. Why? That question. Simple. Heavy. Familiar. Alicia sat down across from him for just a moment. Because someone helped me when I needed it, she said. Not entirely true. Not entirely false, but close enough. The man swallowed, then nodded. Slowly. Thank you. Alicia stood. You're welcome. She turned back to her work, like it was nothing, like it didn't matter. But it did. Because somewhere, in the middle of everything she had lost, she hadn't lost that, and that meant something. Later that afternoon, the door chimed again. Alicia didn't look up right away, just kept wiping the counter, moving, working, living. Black coffee. The voice stopped her. Familiar, too familiar. She closed her eyes for half a second, then opened them. Turned slowly. Ethan Carter stood there. No suit jacket, no tie. Just a man. Standing in a place he clearly didn't belong. But this time, neither did she. What are you doing here? She asked quietly. Ethan didn't answer right away. He looked around, took in the space, the chipped tables, the worn floors, the people who didn't look at him like he was something powerful, just something different. I came to see you. Alicia nodded once. That's not a good idea. Probably not. A beat. But I'm here anyway. Silence stretched between them. Heavy. Unfinished. Alicia gestured toward a table. Sit. He did. Not like a CEO. Not like a man used to being served. Just sat. Alicia poured the coffee, set it in front of him. Their fingers didn't touch this time. And somehow, that distance felt louder than anything they had said. I didn't come to fix it, he said. Alicia let out a quiet breath. Good. Because I can't. She met his eyes. Then why are you here? Ethan looked at her. Really looked this time. Not as a role, not as a solution, not as a mistake, but as a person. Because I needed to understand what I lost. Alicia's expression didn't change. You didn't lose anything. Yes, I did. The words came without hesitation, without calculation, without control, and that was new. Alicia leaned back slightly, arms crossed, protective. You lost a deal, she said. You'll find another one. Ethan shook his head. No. A pause. I lost something I didn't even know I needed. The cafe noise filled the space between them. Quiet conversations, clinking dishes, life moving on, unaffected. Alicia looked away for a moment, then back. You should go, she said softly. Ethan didn't move. I'm not asking for anything, he said. Good. He stopped, because for once, he didn't have the right words, and Alicia, for once, didn't offer them. Because this wasn't a conversation that could be fixed, not with logic, not with money, not with anything he knew how to use. It had to be felt. And right now, all they felt was distance. Real, unavoidable, and maybe necessary. The bell above the cafe door chimed softly as someone left. Then again, and again. Life moving in small, ordinary rhythms. But inside Ethan Carter, nothing felt ordinary anymore. He sat there longer than he should have, long after his coffee had gone cold, long after Alicia had walked away to serve other tables, moving with the same quiet focus she always had, not once looking back at him, not once asking him to stay. And somehow, that said more than anything else she could have. Finally, he stood, placed a few bills on the table. Too much. Always too much. A habit he hadn't unlearned yet. Then he walked out. No driver waiting. No black car. Just the street. And for the first time in years, he didn't know where to go next. The city felt different when you weren't looking down at it from glass walls. The noise wasn't distant anymore. It surrounded him, pressed in, real. Ethan walked, past storefronts, past people who didn't recognize him, didn't care who he was, didn't adjust their lives to make room for him. And for the first time, he realized how much of the world existed without him. That should have felt small, but it didn't. It felt honest. Back at the office, everything waited exactly where he had left it. Perfect. Organized. Predictable. His assistant stood as soon as he stepped in. "Mr. Carter, the Reynolds board is requesting confirmation for tonight's announcement." Ethan didn't slow down. "Cancel it." She blinked. "I'm sorry." "Cancel it." A pause. Careful. Measured. "They've already flown in, sir." Ethan stopped walking, turned slowly. "Then they can fly back." The silence that followed was sharp, because this wasn't negotiation. This wasn't strategy. This was something else, something no one in that building had ever seen from him. The assistant nodded quickly. "Yes, sir." He walked past her, into his office, closed the door, and for a moment, just stood there. The city stretched out beyond the glass, cold, controlled, distant, just like he had been. Until now. He opened his laptop, pulled up the financials, the contracts, the agreements that had shaped the last 6 months of his life, and for the first time, they didn't impress him. They didn't ground him. They didn't mean anything at all. Because none of it explained what he had seen. None of it explained Alicia. Why she gave when she had nothing. Why she walked away when she could have stayed. Why she looked at him like he wasn't something to admire, but something to question. His jaw tightened slightly. He picked up his phone, dialed a number he hadn't called in years. "Whitman." The voice on the other end was older, calmer, the kind of voice that didn't rush. "Ethan," the man replied. "It's been a while. I need information." A soft chuckle. "You always do." Ethan didn't smile. "Everything on Alicia Brooks." A pause. Not long, but enough. "That's not how this works anymore." Ethan leaned back slightly. "It is today." Another pause. Longer this time. Then, "I'll send what I can." The line went dead. Ethan lowered the phone slowly and waited. The file arrived 2 hours later. Simple. Unremarkable, like her. But that was the mistake. He opened it, read, then read again, each line stripping away something he thought he understood. Alicia Brooks, age 28, 2 jobs, no criminal record, no outstanding debts, no connections, nothing extraordinary, except a series of small entries, easy to miss if you weren't looking. Donations, consistent, small, frequent, to shelters, to community clinics, to people with no last names listed. Ethan frowned, scrolled further. Medical payments, not just for her mother, for others, anonymous, quiet, untraceable unless you knew where to look. His chest tightened slightly, because this wasn't survival, this was something else. He picked up the phone again. Whitman, you got the file. Why isn't any of this public? A pause. Because she didn't want it to be. Ethan's grip tightened. How long? Years. The word landed heavier than expected. Years. Not days. Not moments. Not something done for show. Something lived. Every day. Every choice. Why? Ethan asked. The question came out quieter this time. More human. Whitman didn't answer immediately. Then, some people don't need a reason to be kind, Ethan. The line went silent. Ethan lowered the phone slowly, and for the first time, he felt something he didn't recognize right away. Not anger, not frustration. Something deeper. Something uncomfortable, because everything he had built, every decision he had made, was based on value, return, outcome. And Alicia had none of that. She gave without return, acted without outcome, lived without calculation. And somehow, she was stronger than him. That realization didn't break him, but it cracked something, wide open. That night, he didn't go home, didn't go back to the penthouse. Instead, he drove, alone. No destination, just movement. Until the city changed. The streets narrowed, the buildings aged, the lights dimmed. Until he found himself back where he had started. The cafe. Closed now. Dark. Except for a single light in the back. He sat in the car for a moment, watching, thinking. Then stepped out, walked up to the door, knocked. No answer. But the light stayed on. He waited. Then, the door opened slightly. Ron stood there, suspicious. Yeah? Ethan didn't move. I'm not here for trouble. Ron looked him up and down. You don't look like the type who asks permission. Ethan nodded once. I didn't used to be. A pause, then. Alicia here? Ron hesitated, then shook his head. She left. Where? Ron crossed his arms. Why? Ethan held his gaze. Because I need to make something right. Ron studied him, longer this time, then stepped back slightly. Hospital, he said. Her mom. Ethan nodded. Thank you. He turned, walked back to the car. But this time, there was no hesitation, no calculation, no strategy, just direction. Because for the first time in his life, Ethan Carter wasn't chasing a deal. He was chasing the truth. And he already knew. It wasn't going to be easy. Because the kind of truth Alicia carried didn't come with a price tag. It came with a cost. And he was only just beginning to understand what that meant. The hospital lights were too bright for the hour. Fluorescent. Unforgiving. They washed everything in a pale, colorless glow that made even hope feel fragile. Ethan stepped through the sliding doors, the quiet hiss of them closing behind him sounding louder than it should have. He paused just inside. For a moment, he didn't move. Didn't belong. Didn't know how to exist in a place where nothing could be controlled with a signature. People passed him, nurses with tired eyes, families sitting too close together in plastic chairs, holding on to each other like that alone could keep things from falling apart. No one looked at him twice. No one cared who he was, and that grounded him in a way nothing else had. He approached the front desk. "Excuse me," he said. The nurse glanced up. "Yes?" "I'm looking for Alicia Brooks." The nurse typed quickly, then looked at him again. "She's in room 314. Ethan nodded. "Thank you." The hallway stretched long and quiet. Each step echoed softly beneath his shoes. He passed doors half closed, voices murmuring, machines beeping steadily, life hanging in the balance behind every wall. When he reached the door, he stopped. His hand hovered just inches from it. For the first time in years, Ethan Carter hesitated. Because this wasn't a meeting. This wasn't a deal. There was no script, no control, just truth. He knocked, softly. "Come in," Alicia's voice answered. He opened the door, slowly. And there she was, sitting beside the bed, her hand wrapped gently around her mother's. No dress, no performance, just her, real, tired, strong. She looked up, and when she saw him, something in her expression shifted. Not surprise, not anger, something quieter, something harder to define. "You shouldn't be here," she said. Ethan stepped inside anyway. "I know." The room fell into silence. Her mother slept peacefully, machines humming softly. The world outside that small space felt distant, unimportant. "I didn't come to take anything from you," he said. Alicia studied him, carefully. "Then why are you here?" Ethan exhaled slowly. "Because I finally understand what I did." Alicia didn't respond, didn't help him, didn't make it easier. So he continued. "I turned your life into a transaction," he said. "I reduced you to something I could control." A pause. "And when it mattered most, I stayed silent." That was the truth. Simple, unprotected. And for the first time, he didn't try to soften it. Alicia looked down at her mother's hand, then back at him. "Yes," she said quietly. "You did." No anger, no raised voice, just truth. And somehow, that hurt more. Ethan nodded once. "I know I can't fix that." "Then what are you doing here?" she asked again. Her voice wasn't cold, but it wasn't warm either. It was something in between. Careful, guarded. Ethan stepped closer. Not too close. Just enough. "I made a choice," he said. Alicia's brow furrowed slightly. "What kind of choice?" "The kind that costs something." A beat. "I ended the deal." The words hung in the air, heavy, real. Alicia's eyes searched his face. "For good?" "Yes." "And your family?" "They won't agree." "And the company?" "They won't either." Alicia shook her head slightly. "You don't walk away from something like that without consequences." "I know." "Then why do it?" Ethan didn't hesitate. "Because it was wrong." The answer came too quickly to be calculated, too simply to be strategic. It was just honest. Alicia studied him for a long moment, as if trying to decide whether she believed him, or whether belief even mattered anymore. "You had everything," she said softly. "Why give it up?" Ethan looked around the room. The worn chair, the quiet machine beside the bed, the woman who had raised Alicia, lying there between strength and uncertainty, then back at Alicia. "I didn't have what you have," he said. A small pause. "And I didn't even know it." The silence that followed was different. Not heavy, not sharp. Just still, like something was settling into place. "You think that makes this okay?" Alicia asked. "No." "Then what does it change?" Ethan took a breath. "It doesn't change what I did." A beat. "But it changes who I choose to be now." Alicia looked away, toward the window, the city lights flickering in the distance. "I don't need you to be anything," she said. "I know." "I don't need your money." "I know." "I don't need your apology." Ethan nodded. "I know." Another pause. Longer this time. Then why are you still here?" she asked. Ethan's voice softened. "Because I don't want to be the man who walks away again." That landed. Not loud, not dramatic, but real. Alicia closed her eyes for a moment. Just a second. Then opened them again. "You already did," she said. And that was the truth. Unavoidable. Unchangeable. Ethan didn't argue. Didn't defend himself. Because she was right. "I did," he said quietly. A beat. "But I came back." The room fell silent again. The machines continued their steady rhythm, life moving forward, whether they were ready or not. Alicia looked at him, really looked this time, not at the man he was, but at the man he was trying to become. And for the first time, she saw it. Not perfectly, not completely, but enough. "You can't undo what happened," she said. "I'm not trying to." "Then what are you trying to do?" Ethan's answer came slower this time, carefully, like something he had never said out loud before. "I'm trying to be someone who deserves to stand in the same room as you." The words stayed there, between them, unpolished, unprotected. True. Alicia didn't respond right away, because part of her wanted to believe it, and part of her was afraid to. "Go home," she said finally. Not harsh, not dismissive, just firm. Ethan nodded, but he didn't move immediately. He looked at her one last time, then at her mother, then back at her. "If you ever need anything, I won't," she said gently. Another truth, another boundary. Ethan accepted it. Because this time, he understood. Respect didn't mean fixing. It meant listening, even when the answer was no. He turned, walked to the door, paused for just a second, then left. The hallway swallowed him again. Bright, empty, real. And for the first time in his life, Ethan Carter walked away without knowing if he would ever be invited back. Inside the room, Alicia sat still, her mother's hand still in hers, the silence wrapping around her like something fragile. She exhaled slowly, not relief, not pain, something in between, because for the first time, he hadn't tried to buy his way back in, and that meant something. But whether it was enough, she didn't know, not yet. Morning arrived quietly, no dramatic change, no sudden answers. Just sunlight slipping through the hospital blinds, stretching slowly across the floor, like time itself refusing to rush. Alicia hadn't slept much. She sat in the same chair, same position, her hand still resting over her mother's, listening to the steady rhythm of the machine, breathing in the stillness, trying to understand what had shifted and what hadn't. Because something had changed, not outside, not in the world, but somewhere deeper, inside her. The door opened softly. A nurse stepped in with a gentle smile. "Good morning," she said. Alicia nodded. "Morning." The nurse checked the monitor, adjusted a line, then paused. "You have a visitor." Alicia's chest tightened slightly. "I didn't ask for one." The nurse smiled faintly. "They didn't ask for permission either." That sounded familiar. Too familiar. Alicia exhaled slowly. "Send them in." The nurse nodded and stepped out. A few seconds later, the door opened again. But it wasn't who Alicia expected. It wasn't Ethan. It was his grandmother. The same woman from the fireplace. The one who had looked at her like she wasn't invisible. The one who had seen something deeper. She stepped inside slowly, leaning lightly on her cane. "I hope I'm not intruding," she said. Alicia stood, surprised. "No, I didn't expect—" "I know," the woman said gently. "That's why I came." Alicia gestured toward the chair. "Please." The older woman sat carefully. Her eyes moved to the bed, then back to Alicia. "She's strong," she said quietly. Alicia nodded. "She has to be." A small pause. Then, "So do you." That landed differently this time. Not like pressure. Not like expectation. Like recognition. "I didn't come to apologize," the woman continued. "That's not my place." Alicia remained still, careful, listening. "I came because I've lived long enough to know when something real walks into a room," she said. "And you did." Alicia swallowed. "That room didn't want me there." The woman smiled faintly. "Rooms like that rarely do." A beat. "But that doesn't mean they're right." Silence settled between them. Soft, understanding. "I saw what you did," the woman said. "At dinner, in the kitchen, with that young man." Alicia looked down slightly. It wasn't a big deal. "That's the point," the woman replied. "To you, it never is." Another pause, then, "My grandson," she continued, "has spent his entire life learning how to win." Alicia looked up. "And lose?" she asked quietly. The woman's eyes softened. "He's learning that now." Alicia didn't respond, because part of her already knew. "He made a choice," the woman said, "one that cost him more than he's ever admitted." Alicia's brow tightened slightly. "I didn't ask him to." "I know." "Then why are you telling me?" The older woman leaned forward just a little. "Because sometimes the hardest thing isn't changing," she said. "It's believing that change is real." The words lingered. Quiet, heavy, true. Alicia turned slightly toward the window. The light had grown stronger now, warmer. "I don't know if I can go back to that world," she said. "You don't have to." Alicia looked at her, surprised. "You don't belong to that world," the woman continued. "And it doesn't belong to you." A small pause. "But that doesn't mean you can't walk through it, on your terms." That was different. Not an invitation. Not a demand. A choice. Alicia exhaled slowly. "I don't want to be someone else just to fit into it." "Then don't," the woman said simply. Another silence, then, "Come outside with me," she added. Alicia hesitated. "My mother, I'll stay with her." The nurse's voice came softly from the doorway. Alicia turned. The nurse nodded gently. "Go." Alicia looked back at the older woman, then down at her mother, then finally. She nodded. The hospital courtyard was quiet. A small space tucked between buildings. Green. Peaceful. Almost hidden. The air felt different here. Cleaner. Easier to breathe. Alicia walked beside the older woman slowly. Neither of them spoke at first. They didn't need to. After a moment, the woman stopped, gestured toward the far end of the courtyard. Alicia followed her gaze and froze. Ethan stood there. No suit, no distance, just him. Waiting, not moving closer, not calling out. Just there. Alicia's chest tightened. Her instinct told her to turn back, to protect what little peace she had rebuilt. But something else, something quieter, told her to stay. "You don't owe him anything," the older woman said gently. Alicia nodded. "I know. But sometimes," she added, "we don't choose what we owe others." Alicia looked at her. "And what do we owe?" The woman smiled softly. "Only what feels true." Then she stepped back, leaving Alicia alone, with the choice. Alicia stood there for a long moment. The distance between them not far, but not easy. Finally, she walked forward, slow, measured, until she stood a few feet away. Ethan didn't move, didn't interrupt, didn't fill the silence. He just waited. "I thought I told you to go home," Alicia said. "I did. A beat. And I realized I didn't know where that was anymore." That answer, simple, honest, unfinished. Alicia crossed her arms lightly. Not defensive, just steady. "What do you want, Ethan?" He met her eyes. Not with confidence, not with control, with something new. "I want to earn the right to stand here," he said. A pause. Nothing more. Alicia studied him, searching for something familiar, something calculated, but she didn't find it. "You already said that," she replied. "I know. Words are easy. I know." Another pause. Longer, quieter. "Then what's different now?" she asked. Ethan exhaled slowly. "I didn't come with an offer." Alicia raised an eyebrow slightly. "No deal? No deal? No conditions?" "None." Alicia looked at him for a long moment. Then why are you still here?" Ethan's answer came softer this time. "Because for the first time in my life, I'm not trying to win." The words settled between them. Not heavy, not forced. Just real. Alicia looked down briefly, then back up and what happens if I say no?" Ethan nodded once. "Then I leave." No hesitation, no argument. Just truth. And that changed something. Alicia felt it. Not loudly, not dramatically, but enough. She stepped closer, just a little. "You don't get to fix this," she said. "I know. You don't get to rewrite what happened. I know. You don't get to decide how I feel. I know." Each answer came without resistance, without defense, without ego. Alicia let out a slow breath. Then, "For someone who had everything," she said quietly, "you've become very patient." Ethan gave the smallest hint of a smile. "I'm learning." A moment passed, then another, until Alicia did something neither of them expected. She uncrossed her arms, not fully open, but no longer closed. "I'm not coming back for your world," she said. Ethan nodded. "I'm not asking you to. I'm not playing a role. I don't want you to. And I'm not someone you can buy. I know. Silence. Then, Alicia tilted her head slightly. And if I walk through that door again, it's because you changed. Not because I needed to. Ethan held her gaze. That's the only reason I'd want you to. The truth of that sat between them. Clear, uncomplicated. Alicia looked past him for a moment, toward the hospital, toward her mother, toward the life she had fought to hold together, then back at him. I'm not saying yes, she said. I know. I'm just not saying no anymore. And that was enough. Not an ending, not a resolution, but a beginning, a real one. Because this time, there was no contract, no mistake, no illusion. Just two people standing in the same place, finally seeing each other clearly and choosing, step by step, what came next. Some doors are opened by accident. Others, you choose to walk through, and sometimes, the wrong door is the only way you ever find the right one. If this story meant something to you, I want to hear from you. Drop a simple 1 in the comments if you believe kindness always comes back, or 0 if you think the world doesn't work that way anymore. No long words needed, just a number. I'll be reading every single one. And if you're still here, it means this story stayed with you. So don't forget to hit subscribe, because the next story might be the one that changes you too.